Chapter 1158. What does this mean? Yi Shui frowned and asked curiously. I don't know. Jing Yu shook her head and replied. She held the note in her hand and sat on the grass with her knees slightly bent. She subconsciously touched the note in her hand and fell into deep thought. Yi Shui looked at Jing Yu and frowned. Jing Yu sat quietly on the grass and listened to the playful voices of Yin Jian and Yin Feng. She felt the wind blow past her cheeks. Jing Yu slowly closed her eyes. Her vision was still pitch black. In Jing Yu's mind, that sentence kept echoing. Jing Yu's body swayed slightly. She seemed to have thought of something and fell into deep thought. Taming beasts as kings could accommodate the world. What was the meaning of this sentence? Taming beasts as kings was not a difficult mystery in the world. Jing Yu thought quietly. In everyone's eyes, taming beasts was taming wild beasts. There were many types of beasts such as jackals, wolves, tigers, leopards, and so on in the forest. The power of the mystic pupil was taming beasts. The ability to be the king of beasts? Taming beasts, taming beasts. Jing Yu slowly opened her eyes. Was taming beasts really just taming wild beasts? Why would wild beasts listen to her? Why would they feel the same way? Jing Yu fell into a daze. To Jing Yu, rather than taming wild beasts, it was better to say that she treated these wild beasts as her friends and befriended them. Jing Yu had always had this thought when she was growing up. Just like how Yin Jian and Yin Feng were friends, family, and companions who grew up with her. Taming beasts? No, not taming beasts. It was taming beasts. Jing Yu's eyes lit up. If she treated herself as a member of the wild beasts, she would be like the king of beasts, like the leader of wild wolves, like the king of lions. They were of the same species and thus had the ability to tame beasts. I understand. Jing Yu's heart was burning with passion. Her heart trembled as she spoke slowly. Taming beasts as kings. King of beasts. King of beasts. So it's this king. Jing Yu's heart was beating bit by bit. Her heart was filled with excitement. Her face was flushed red, and the paper in her hand was tightly held by Jing Yu. Yi Shui stood behind Jing Yu and listened to Jing Yu's soft murmurs. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She completely didn't understand what Jing Yu meant. Jing Yu sat there silently and didn't move at all. She sat there for the entire morning. Yi Shui called Jing Yu for a long time, but she didn't respond. She had no choice but to find some food herself. She turned to look at Jing Yu, who was surrounded by Yin Jian and Yin Feng, and felt at ease. With Yin Jian and Yin Feng here, nothing should happen to Jing Yu, right? Yi Shui turned to leave, but Jing Yu still sat there. The sun was still blazing above her head. Jing Yu slowly closed her eyes and thought over and over again about how she had tamed the wild beasts. Her eyes flickered with a different expression. Her heart was beating faster and faster. Taming beasts as kings could contain the world. Could contain the world. Could contain the world. But in Jing Yu's heart, there had never been a world. Ha! Jing Yu laughed absent-mindedly and said, if the heart doesn't contain the world, what is there to contain? Chapter 1159. Are you telling me that I am not destined to become the king of beast tamers? Jing Yu's heart trembled violently. A strong sense of unwillingness spread throughout Jing Yu's heart. But why must those with different pupils accept everyone in the world? Everyone in the world humiliates me, scolds me, and fears me. Why must I accept everyone in the world? Why? Jing Yu clenched her fists tightly. Jing Yu's past experiences flashed through her mind. She had carefully concealed her different pupils so that she could enjoy the rare familial love. But why? She clearly did not do anything, but the moment she revealed her abnormal pupils, she was banished and abandoned by the people of the world. Now, in the end, she was the one who had to accept the world. But why did she have to do this? Jing Yu's heart was filled with unwillingness. She clenched her fists tightly. No! Jing Yu's face was filled with viciousness. In those dark eyes, Jing Yu seemed to see the faces of those people. Those faces of fear, those faces of disgust, and those faces that wanted nothing more than to kill her. The world is nothing. Jing Yu's eyes shone with a terrifying light. If I want to, so what if the world is destroyed? Jing Yu's eyes were filled with viciousness. Being able to accept the world doesn't mean that I can't overturn it. Ha! Jing Yu threw her head back and laughed loudly. The king of beast tamers can overturn the world. Ha! They can overturn the world. Jing Yu's heart, which had been suppressed, completely relaxed at this moment. This sentence should be changed. What do you mean by being able to accept the world? Jing Yu stood up slowly. The light in her eyes was so scorching that it seemed to set the world on fire. That aura of hers was terrifying. Jing Yu felt the blood in her body boiling. This boiling feeling was getting hotter and hotter. When Jing Yu realized that something was wrong, there was an explosion in her brain. What's going on, my body? This burning feeling was so familiar that Jing Yu immediately thought of it. Why is it happening again? Jing Yu felt a little uncomfortable as she placed her hand on her chest. The burning sensation that came from her chest made her heart tremble violently. This feeling was all too familiar to her. Before Jing Yu was born, Jing Yu's body would experience this change every year at a certain time. Jing Yu never felt this change after the golden eye appeared outside the Tokyo Imperial City. But why did it suddenly appear at such a time? Jing Yu clutched her clothes tightly. The burning feeling in her body made Jing Yu groan in pain. She fell to the ground and her forehead was covered with sweat. Her eyes were filled with pain. She closed her eyes tightly and curled up into a ball on the grass. The two gray wolves by Jing Yu's side, Silver Arrow and Silver Wind, also retreated to the side in panic. Jing Yu could not see anything in the darkness, but she could vaguely see a pair of eyes flashing. Those eyes were so familiar and so dazzling. Chapter 1160. What is this? Jing Yu's blood was boiling. The burning sensation instantly spread throughout Jing Yu's body. Ah! Jing Yu couldn't help but scream. Jing Yu's scream seemed to have startled the birds in the forest. It also startled Yi Shui, who was hanging on a tree and picking fruits not far away. This voice is... Yi Shui's voice sounded a little doubtful. Then she seemed to have thought of something and her face suddenly changed. Jing Yu! Yi Shui's eyes narrowed. She suddenly jumped down from the tree and ran towards Jing Yu. At this moment, Jing Yu had curled up her body, as if she thought that this would lessen the pain in her body. However, this was of no use. The burning sensation seemed to be looking for an opening and was crazily surging in Jing Yu's body. It's so hot. Jing Yu's consciousness was about to become blurry. She lifted her hands and pulled off her clothes as if she was trying to untie something. Ah! Jing Yu's scream was so terrifying. This time, Yi Shui heard it even more clearly. She suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her eyes were filled with panic. She lifted her feet and ran even faster towards Jing Yu. The pool was shaking. Jing Yu used all her strength to jump into the pool and sink into the water. In the pool, there were some aquatic plants and fish swimming in the water. Jing Yu jumped into the pool and held her breath. It seemed that the temperature in her body was slowly dropping in this cold water. However, this feeling didn't last for more than a few seconds. Jing Yu felt an even more burning sensation surging out of Jing Yu's body. Jing Yu's eyes suddenly widened. Her pitch-black eyes saw nothing but darkness. The burning sensation surging out of her body rushed straight to her brain. Jing Yu's brain was temporarily blank under this intense impact. Her ears seemed to be filled with a roaring sound and her body's consciousness was slowly dissipating. Jing Yu's body slowly sank into the pool without any resistance. This scene was so familiar. However, as Jing Yu sank, pitch-black blood flowed out of her mouth and nose. The blood wasn't red. It was black. Under the rinsing of the pool water, it slowly dissipated. The calm pool water regained its tranquility. It was as if none of this had happened. Yi Shui rushed here as fast as she could, but all she saw was an empty plain. There was no sign of Jing Yu, nor were there any sounds from Yin Jian and Yin Feng. At this moment, Yi Shui's mind was blank. She looked at the empty lawn and spun around. She couldn't understand why Jing Yu had disappeared. What was that cry about? Just when Yi Shui was confused, there was a commotion in the bushes. The heads of the two gray wolves, Yin Jian and Yin Feng, popped out. Yi Shui's eyes widened. She looked at the two big guys, Yin Jian and Yin Feng. There were no wounds on their bodies, nor were there any signs of fighting. Did that mean that Jingyu hadn't been taken away? If someone wanted to take Jingyu, how could Yin Jian and Yin Feng let it go? Chapter 1161. Awu! Silver Arrow and Silver Wind seemed to be very anxious as they circled around the pool. When Yi Shui saw this scene, her gaze slowly landed on the calm pool, looking at the surface without any ripples. Yi Shui then looked at the movements of Silver Arrow and Windward Wolf. Suddenly, as if she had thought of something, Yi Shui's eyes abruptly widened. Without thinking, she directly charged into the pool and sank into the water. At the bottom of the ice-cold water, Yi Shui could clearly see Jingyu sleeping at the bottom of the pool with her eyes tightly closed. Quick! Find Miracle Dr. Qingge. Jin Ling Town fell into an incomparable panic. Yi Shui was drenched from head to toe, her hair stuck tightly to her cheeks. Her face was full of panic, and her eyes seemed to be bloodshot. As soon as she entered the town, she started shouting loudly. The panic in her voice was terrifying. Yi Shui carried Jingyu on her back and rushed into the house to place Jingyu on the bed. When Xiaochen, Shangguan Linglan, and the rest heard the news and rushed over, Qinggu had also just arrived. What's going on? Xiaochen looked at Yi Shui, who was standing at the side, drenched. He then looked at Jingyu, who was lying on the bed with a pale face and drenched body. His heart trembled violently as he asked. Yi Shui shook her head silently and said, I don't know. Jingyu, she jumped into the pool. When I was looking for food, I don't know why. Yi Shui slowly lowered her eyes and clenched her fists tightly. What? When Xiaochen heard Yi Shui's words, his brain short-circuited. What did she mean by jumping into the pool? Suicide? Xiaochen's body shook violently. He watched Qingji's face become extremely ugly. He slowly withdrew his hand that was taking her pulse and gently put Jingyu's hand back to its original position. He sat silently beside Jingyu's bed for a long time without moving. What's wrong with Jingyu? Xiaochen asked tentatively. Qinggu was silent for a long time before he slowly spat out these two words. These two words were like a bomb that instantly exploded in everyone's hearts. Everyone's eyes widened at this moment as they stared in disbelief at Qinggu, who was slowly standing up. His heartbeat, pulse, and breathing have all stopped. There is water in his mouth and nose. This is drowning. Qinggu felt as if he had stabbed a knife into everyone's heart as he spat out such bloody words. What the fuck did you say? Xiaochen was instantly enraged. He raised his hand and grabbed Qingji's collar, almost lifting Qinggu up. The fury in his eyes was very obvious. Ninth brother? Qingji's eyes reddened slightly as he choked out, Ninth sister-in-law, she really, get lost. Get lost. Xiaochen pushed Qinggu aside as if he had gone crazy. He staggered towards Jingyu's bed and saw Jingyu's pale face and tightly shut eyes. Jingyu? Xiaochen reached out with a trembling hand and caressed Jingyu's face. His hand came into contact with Jingyu's ice-cold face. The icy temperature was so frightening that Xiaochen's hand suddenly shrank back. His beating heart also stopped for a moment, and his eyes were filled with panic. Jingyu, open your eyes. Xiaochen reached out and held Jingyu's face, his eyes filled with panic. Chapter 1162. In Xiaochen's hands, Jingyu wasn't breathing at all, nor was there a heartbeat. She didn't even have a pulse. Her cold body lay motionless on the bed. No matter how much Xiaochen yelled, it was to no avail. Ninth brother, it's no use. Qinggu fiercely turned his head away and said, Ninth sister is dead. Shut up. Xiaochen's eyes were dyed with an incomparably ferocious red. He suddenly turned his head and glared at Qinggu fiercely as he roared, Jingyu, she isn't dead. Everyone in the room fell silent. They all lowered their heads and looked at Xiaochen and Jingyu lying on the bed. Their hearts throbbed with pain. Jingyu's mind was blank. He stood stiffly on the spot and stared blankly at Jingyu lying on the bed. His brain couldn't wrap itself around the situation. She was fine in the morning. How could she, no, you wouldn't commit suicide. Jing Lang shook his head fiercely and said, how could you commit suicide? But Yi Shue's body trembled slightly as she said with great difficulty, Jingyu was with the two gray wolves. There were no signs of anyone else around, nor were there any signs of fighting. There could only be one possibility. Jingyu jumped into the pool of water herself. Xiaochen slowly fell silent. His pitch-black eyes flashed with an icy light. Ninth brother. Qinggu was still covered in dust. In order to cure Jingyu's eyes as quickly as possible, Qinggu had rushed all the way to Jinling. Xiaochen had been happy for a long time because of Qingji's return. Originally, he thought that when Jingyu came back, she would be very happy to see Qinggu. Finally, he could cure Jingyu's eyes. But who would have thought that in just a few hours, it would become like this? Could it be that Jingyu committed suicide because she couldn't bear the sight of her eyes? Yi Shue seemed to have thought of something as she asked, her body trembling slightly. Impossible! Shangguan Linglan clenched his teeth and said, if Jingyu cared so much about her eyes, why would she train so hard to help everyone? Why not? Yi Shue clenched her fists and looked sideways at Jingyu, who was lying on the bed, and said, you should know that Jingyu didn't just lose her eyes. She also lost the ability of her other pupils. Yi Shue's words struck everyone hard in their hearts. They suddenly recalled everything that had happened over the past few days. Silence. A deathly silence. Everyone was silent. Xiaochen slowly lowered his eyes. His eyes, which were staring at Jingyu, seemed to be filled with a terrifying emotion. Under everyone's gaze, Xiaochen stood up unsteadily. His body swayed slightly as he walked past Jingyu step by step toward the door without saying a word. Everyone looked at Xiaochen's appearance. Their hearts trembled and they turned their heads away in surprise. Master? Xing Er looked at Xiaochen's appearance and frowned uneasily. Xiaochen walked step by step to the door. His pitch-black eyes were as cold as ice and his face quickly flushed red. Under everyone's fearful gaze, Xiaochen suddenly held onto the door frame and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Chapter 1163. Brother Jiao. Qinggu darted over and tried to hold Xiaochen. However, Xiaochen flung his hand away. Piss off. Xiaochen's violent eyes were filled with a strong bloodlust. He flung Qingji's hand away, then staggered and leaned against the door without moving. The others couldn't bear to see Xiaochen like this. No one thought that things would turn out like this. How could Jingyu die? She had been doing so well. Could it be that Jingyu had disguised herself too well? In fact, in Jingyu's heart, she already found it hard to accept. No, that was impossible. Jingyu wasn't that kind of person. Shangguan Linglan clenched his fists and turned to look at Jingyu. His eyes glowed with a fierce light, as if he was thinking about something. Then he walked out of Jinling City and headed toward the Roman forest. The sky darkened bit by bit. Xiaochen sat on a chair in the living room. He lowered his head and didn't say a word. There were drops of blood on his body. Xing Er stood beside Xiaochen. Looking at Xiaochen, he frowned deeply. Master. Xing Er stayed silent for a long while, then finally called him. Jingyu won't die. Xiaochen slowly raised his head. His eyes glowed with determination. Xiaochen. While Xiaochen and Xing Er were silent, a shout was heard from outside. Shangguan Linglan ran in while gasping for breath. His eyes were filled with panic. Xiaochen looked at Shangguan Linglan and slightly clenched his fists. I went to the Roman forest and found this. Shangguan Linglan stood in front of Xiaochen and handed the thing in his hand to Xiaochen. This is... Xiaochen looked at the thing that Shangguan Linglan handed to him. It was a wet piece of paper. Beast taming as king, able to contain the world. Xiaochen slowly read out the contents of the paper. Shangguan Linglan then explained the origin of this thing. After listening to Shangguan Linglan's explanation, Xiaochen's expression froze for a moment. Jingyu went to the Roman forest because of this? Xiaochen's expression turned cold. I don't know. Shangguan Linglan looked down with trembling eyes and said, could it be that this thing provoked Jingyu? She actually lost her other pupil, so she took things too hard? When Xiaochen heard Shangguan Linglan's words, his hands trembled violently. He then shook his head firmly and said, no, that's impossible. But other than this, There's really no other explanation. Shengguan Linglan was so anxious that he was about to cry. Xiao Chen looked down at the paper in his hand and slowly fell silent. If he had been agitated a while ago, Xiao Chen had already calmed down. He looked down at the paper in his hand. His intuition kept telling Xiao Chen that Jing Yu was definitely not dead. There must be something hidden within. But Qing Ji's diagnosis was indeed correct. Jing Yu was dead. Why was this? Why? Xiao Chen gripped the thing in his hand even tighter. The atmosphere in the room was so silent that it was a little scary. However, just as everyone was still thinking about Jing Yu, the main character that everyone was worried about was lying quietly on the bed. 2 guards were standing guard outside the side room where Xiao Chen and Jing Yu were. Chapter 1164. Jing Yu felt as though she had sunk into an endless abyss of darkness and coldness. Jing Yu's body continued to fall. Jing Yu's entire body seemed to have lost all strength. She desperately tried to grab onto something to stop herself from falling, but there was nothing that she could grab onto. Jing Yu was extremely disgusted by this feeling. She furrowed her brows tightly, as though she was making a final struggle. Just as Jing Yu was about to make a move, she suddenly saw a pair of eyes flash in the darkness. That pair of eyes was a dark green color, aloof and cold, like a lone wolf in the forest. Jing Yu was in a daze for a moment, and in the blink of an eye, she saw another pair of eyes. That pair of golden eyes was dazzling and moving. They were passionate and majestic, emitting a strong sense of majesty. They were like the Lion King of the grasslands, incomparably majestic. The 2 pairs of eyes kept swaying in the darkness, circling around Jing Yu. Finally, under Jing Yu's gaze, the 2 pairs of eyes overlapped. The golden eyes overlapped with the green eyes, hazy and moving. Jing Yu didn't know what kind of emotion drove her. When she saw those eyes, Jing Yu's hand actually reached out uncontrollably towards those eyes. Jing Yu seemed to feel the warmth of those eyes, and her heart trembled slightly. In that dark and quiet room, Jing Yu's heart, which had stopped beating when Qinggu announced her pulse and heart, suddenly started to beat steadily and powerfully in her chest. Her blood, which seemed to have solidified, started to flow little by little at this moment. In the darkness, when Jing Yu's fingers came into contact with the eyes floating in the air, she suddenly felt a piercing pain on her fingertips. Then, the pain seemed to be transmitted directly from her fingertips to Jing Yu's eyes. That intense piercing pain caused Jing Yu to suddenly close her eyes and cry out in pain. She suddenly sat up. He sat up? Jing Yu blinked her eyes in a daze. Her fingers moved slightly and she turned her head stiffly. The chill that came from her body made Jing Yu slowly regain her consciousness. This is... Jing Yu's brain short-circuited for a moment. She opened her eyes and sized up the situation in front of her in a daze. This white curtain. Then she lowered her head to look at her clothes and the white cloth covering her body. White cloth? Wait a minute. Why cover her with a white cloth? Oh my God. Am I dead? Jing Yu's mind went blank. She stood up silently and stepped on the ground. Jing Yu blinked and looked at her feet. Then she jumped twice and said in confusion, "Isn't he dead? Why isn't it floating?" Jing Yu touched her arm. It was warm. He didn't die. Just as Jing Yu was about to leave, she suddenly stopped as if she had seen a ghost. What did she just do? She could actually see. Jing Yu finally realized this fact in horror. Her eyes kept blinking. Jing Yu rushed to the side of the bronze mirror and blinked to look at herself in the mirror. She was dressed in white and her face was slightly pale. The most terrifying thing for Jing Yu was her eyes. The eyes reflected in the bronze mirror were a pair of golden eyes with a hazy dark green glow. Wasn't this pair of eyes the one in Jing Yu's consciousness? Warm and cold. Chapter 1165. Jing Yu's eyes widened slightly. She raised her hand and pulled her face. Finally, she was sure that she wasn't dreaming. A look of ecstasy suddenly appeared in Jing Yu's eyes. Her heart couldn't help but tremble. Every beat was so clear. The 2 guards at the door heard the commotion in the room the moment Jing Yu woke up. "Did you hear anything just now?" A tall and skinny guard asked the person beside him. He glanced at the commotion behind him and frowned slightly. Why do I think I heard someone talking? What nonsense are you talking about? The other guard's face turned pale when he heard that. He hurriedly said, "The person inside is the 9th Imperial concubine." During the day, Miracle Dr. Qin Gu diagnosed that the 9th Imperial concubine is already dead. The guard spoke cautiously. I was the one who covered the 9th Imperial concubine with the white cloth. I secretly checked and found that she really wasn't breathing. See? The guard lowered his head when he heard that. He thought that he must have been hallucinating after standing for so long. Clang! Just as the guard thought that, he suddenly heard the sound of something falling to the ground. There seemed to be footsteps as well? Footsteps! The guard was so scared that his entire body trembled. The two of them looked at each other. This time, both of them had heard it. With such a loud sound, even if they wanted to think that they had heard wrongly, it was impossible. Both of their eyes were filled with panic. The two of them had been guarding this place the entire time. Of course, no one had entered. Since no one had entered, why would there be footsteps in the room? There was only a corpse lying in the room. Then this sound, the two of them seemed to have thought of the same thing. Their faces turned pale instantly and they swallowed hard. Let's go in and take a look. The two guards plucked up their courage and walked into the room. In this pitch-black room, only 2 candles were emitting light. The two of them pushed each other as they walked into the room. When they stepped into the room, their hearts couldn't help but tremble. The sound of footsteps became even clearer. The two of them looked at each other and seemed to have made up their minds. They stepped forward and their eyes fell on the empty bed. Where was she? The 9th Imperial concubine's corpse that was lying on the bed had disappeared. Both of their minds went blank. They turned their heads in a daze and involuntarily looked to their right. The figure standing in front of the bronze mirror was dressed in white. He stood in front of the bronze mirror and slowly turned his head as if he felt their gazes. The pair of golden-green eyes looked so strange under the candlelight. His small face was so pale that it was frightening. Ah, ghost! An earth-shattering cry sounded. In the middle of the night, it completely alarmed the entire residence. Jingyu was originally a little confused by her own eyes. She didn't expect to see the two guards when she turned her head. Just as she was about to ask where everyone had gone, she didn't expect to hear the earth-shattering roars of the two guards before she could say a word. Jingyu was stunned. Damn it! Do I look that scary? Jingyu's face turned completely black. She frowned and walked out of the room. Help! The corpse has come to life. There's a ghost. Ah! Chapter 1166. The two people's howls resounded throughout the entire residence. Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglong, who were in the neighboring house, heard them clearly. Xiao Chen was still holding the piece of paper in his hand and was deep in thought when he suddenly heard the howls. He immediately frowned. What's going on? Xiao Chen stood up and walked towards the door. What kind of ghost is this? Shangguan Linglong was also displeased. He thought that these guards needed to be properly disciplined. Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglong walked out of the house and walked straight over. When the two guards saw Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglong, they immediately rushed over. Yes. Probably because they were too frightened, they didn't say anything for a long time and just stood there trembling. What's there? Shangguan Linglong looked at the two guards who couldn't speak clearly and pushed them away in annoyance. Just as he and Xiao Chen were about to enter Jingyu's house, the door slowly opened. A figure slowly stood at the door, barefooted and wearing white clothes. A pair of golden-green eyes blinked as they looked at Xiao Chen and Shangguan Linglong. That pale little face was so familiar. Hiss! Shangguan Linglong suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. There's a ghost! The guard finally calmed down and silently spat out these two words. Who are you calling a ghost? You're the ghost. Your whole family is made up of ghosts. Jingyu was very angry with this guard. Now that she heard him say that she was a ghost, her face instantly filled with anger and she angrily scolded him. When the guard heard Jingyu's scolding, he was instantly dumbfounded. He stood there blankly with a blank expression. This ghost knows how to scold people? Jingyu? When Shangguan Linglong heard Jingyu's familiar voice, his eyes flashed with surprise. He blinked and looked at Jingyu and called out in confusion. Jingyu then turned her gaze to Shangguan Linglan and Xiaoqin. What's wrong? Jingyu blinked and looked at Shangguan Linglan and Xiaoqin and asked in confusion. Shangguan Linglan, Xiaoqin and Xiaoqin, as well as Xing Er, who was beside Xiaoqin, all fell into a momentary silence. Why aren't you talking? Jingyu's eyes fell on Xiaoqin's face. She smiled faintly and said, Xiaoqin, look at my eyes. I can see now. I can see you. Before Jingyu could finish her sentence, she saw Xiaoqin striding towards her with a gloomy face. Jingyu was stunned by the ferocious light in his eyes. She was about to ask when Xiaoqin suddenly pulled her into his embrace. Jingyu's question also turned into a doubtful tone. She didn't understand what was going on at all. She had just taken a nap. Why did she feel that these people were behaving strangely? Xiaoqin, what's wrong with you? Jingyu felt Xiaoqin's arms tighten around her. She lifted her arms and wrapped them around Xiaoqin's waist as she asked worriedly. Shangguan Linglan and Xing Er sighed deeply when they saw this scene. Jingyu, you're still alive. Xiaoqin said with all his might. Jingyu was completely confused. What are you talking about? Of course I'm still alive. Jingyu moved her body in Xiaoqin's embrace and looked up at Xiaoqin. She looked at Xiaoqin's surprised expression and his tired face. Her heart ached for him. Chapter 1167. Yes, she's alive. Xiaoqin held Jingyu's cheeks tenderly, feeling the warmth from Jingyu's body. He listened to Jingyu's breathing and heartbeat. At this moment, he suddenly felt that there was no music as beautiful as her heartbeat. Jingyu, do you know you scared me to death? Shangguan Linglan finally confirmed that Jingyu was still alive. This wasn't an illusion. Jingyu turned her head to look at Shangguan Linglan. You really scared me to death. I thought you wouldn't talk to me anymore. Jingyu, thank goodness you're still alive. Shangguan Linglan stepped forward and hugged Jingyu tightly. His tone was filled with gratitude, and the meaning behind his words was very clear. Her eyes reddened slightly. Hugging Jingyu like this, she felt a little more at ease. Shangguan Linglan had never felt so devastated and heartbroken when he found out that Jingyu had died. Thank goodness. Thank goodness it wasn't true. You brat. What kind of trick were you playing? Why did you jump into the pool of water? You even pretended to be dead to trick us. Shangguan Linglan finally remembered. He let go of Jingyu and glared at Jingyu unhappily. Jingyu's mind went blank for a moment. Then, as if she had thought of something, her eyes suddenly widened as she said, I remember now. Jingyu finally remembered everything that had happened. She was clearly in the Roman forest, but because her body was too hot, she jumped into the pool of water. Could it be? Do you know how scared I was when Qinggu said that you had drowned? Shangguan Linglan glared angrily at Jingyu and said, Hurry up and tell us the truth. What exactly happened? Holy shit, he really drowned. Jingyu's eyes widened, and her face was filled with confusion. She had lost consciousness after jumping into the pool of water, so she didn't know that she had been dead for so long. She hadn't fallen asleep? Jingyu sighed deeply and told them everything that had happened. Shangguan Linglan was stunned and Xiaoqin frowned slightly. After Jingyu finished, she looked at their expressions and swore solemnly. I'm telling the truth. I really don't know what happened. Qinggu and Yi Shui arrived. Everyone was confused after hearing Jingyu's words. Why did they feel like they were listening to a fairy tale? In the pugilistic world, there is indeed a type of person who is skilled in the turtle breathing technique. After Fang Zicheng heard everyone's narration, he looked at Jingyu with a curious gaze. He frowned and said, But what? Jingyu blinked and asked Fang Zicheng. But it doesn't make sense for this to happen to the 9th imperial concubine. Fang Zicheng rubbed his chin and said, The turtle breathing technique requires a strong inner strength and a technique that automatically seals the meridians. The 9th imperial concubine doesn't have any inner strength at all. Jingyu was stunned and looked down at herself. It seemed like she didn't have any inner strength. Then why did she fall into a state of suspended animation? Jing Yu blinked and asked. How would I know? You were the one who faked your own death. Fang Zicheng's face darkened and he glared at Jing Yu. I don't know why you're talking so much nonsense. Jing Yu glared at Fang Zicheng with her golden green eyes, her face full of disdain. Chapter 1168. Hey, you're the one who asked me. Fang Zicheng was completely resentful. He had asked him what was going on and he had answered without thinking. Jing Yu snorted coldly and turned her head away. Fang Zicheng was completely dumbfounded. It was indeed impossible to reason with women. Let's not talk about the fake death first. Let's talk about your eyes, ninth sister-in-law. Qinggu wasn't very interested in Jing Yu's fake death for the time being. However, he was completely confused when he saw Jing Yu's golden green eyes. There are no signs of damage. Your eyes are perfectly fine. This was the conclusion that Qinggu came to after he checked Jing Yu's eyes before he arrived. Qinggu was extremely conflicted. Did someone treat your eyes? How is that possible? Jing Yu shook her head repeatedly. Who could treat Jing Yu's eyes like Qing Ji's? If no one treated your eyes, how did your eyes suddenly recover? Qinggu inched closer to Jing Yu. Looking at Jing Yu's golden green eyes, Qinggu felt that Jing Yu's eyes were even more different. This is really strange. Qinggu stared at Jing Yu's eyes and frowned. The traces of the medicine have completely healed. The medicine that I went through so much trouble to get from Miracle Medical Valley didn't even come in handy? Jing Yu's body silently moved back a little. Qinggu was really too close. Hey, ninth brother. Qinggu wanted to continue studying Jing Yu's eyes, but he was suddenly pulled up by the back of his collar. Qing Ji's face darkened. He turned to look at Xiao Qin, who was pulling him away with a gloomy face, and called out bitterly. I was just treating ninth sister-in-law. You crazy wife protector. Qinggu glared angrily at Xiao Qin, his eyes full of anger. Jing Yu isn't sick. Xiao Qin silently let go of his hand and turned to sit beside Jing Yu. He turned to look at Jing Yu's golden green eyes and said with a slight smile, Isn't this good? Everyone was speechless. By the way, Jing Yu blinked and said very carefully, I seem to have been in this situation in the past. In this situation? What situation? Feigning death? Shengguan Linglan was slightly stunned. He turned to look at Jing Yu. Can you not to say that? Feigning death. Jing Yu's face darkened when she heard Shengguan Linglan's words. She said, that was clearly feigning death. What's the difference? Shengguan Linglan rolled his eyes nonchalantly. How is there no difference? Jing Yu glared fiercely at Shengguan Linglan. She turned her head away unhappily and said, You won't understand a woman who only knows how to fight and kill. When Jing Yu finished speaking, Shengguan Linglan instantly exploded. Ninth sister-in-law, you just said that you were in this situation in the past? Qinggu grasped the main point and looked at Jing Yu suspiciously. Jing Yu nodded and blinked. For the past 15 years, there would be a day after the 20th of January every year when the abnormal pupils would make me feel very uncomfortable. It would make the blood in my body feel like it was burning. Just like this time. In order to endure the burning sensation, I would jump into the water to make myself feel better. I don't remember what happened after that. I only know that when I woke up, it was like I was sleeping at the bottom of the water. But when I woke up, I didn't feel anything strange. Chapter 1169. When Jing Yu's words fell, everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. They had never thought that it would turn out like this. Then why didn't you do this when you were with the 9 emperors for so many years? Qinggu was also stunned. He guessed that this had something to do with the abnormal pupils. It's probably because of this pair of golden eyes. Jing Yu blinked and said, 15 years ago, my eyes were emerald green. However, when I turned 15, my eyes became one gold and one green. After that, I was able to switch between these two colors at will. It was also because of these golden eyes that my body didn't have any abnormalities anymore. But now, it's happening again. Jing Yu raised her hand and touched the corners of her eyes as she said, Furthermore, it seems like my eyes can't change anymore. When everyone heard Jing Yu's words, They stared at Jingyu's golden green eyes. Only then did they realize that in the past, when Jingyu wasn't in a battle or needed to, her eyes would always be black. But now, Jingyu's eyes were always like this. I can't change color at will. Jingyu seemed to have read everyone's minds as she blinked and said, "That's really strange." Qingji's face was full of confusion and confusion. He looked at Jingyu and said, "Regarding the Holy Family's abnormal pupils, our miracle physician Valley has always stayed out of it, so we don't know much about it. However, the abnormal pupils have always been the same color until death. Why did it change so much when it came to you?" Originally, the dual-colored abnormal pupils were already shocking enough. I didn't expect your abnormal pupils to be able to change. Qinggu looked at Jingyu with confusion in his eyes. He said hesitantly, "Ninth sister-in-law, are you really a monster?" Bang. Ouch, ouch, ouch. As soon as Qinggu finished speaking, Shangguan Linglan's hand hit Qingji's head without mercy. His face was dark as he said, "Who are you calling a monster?" "I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me." Qinggu almost burst into tears. He looked at Shangguan Linglan's ferocious expression with fear. He swallowed and hid to the side. "I've done a lot of research on the Holy Family and the Poison Sect," Fang Zicheng said slowly. Fang Zicheng slowly said, "But what I can see is just the surface. Give me a little more time and let me contact the Crown Princess. With the help of the royal family's library, I should be able to find a lot of things." Xiao Chen nodded slowly and said, "The hidden clan has always disguised themselves as too mysterious, and we know nothing about the enemy. This situation is too disadvantageous for us. Know thyself and know thy enemy, and you'll never be defeated." Fang Zicheng lowered his head as a faint smile appeared on his lips. He said indifferently, "Just leave it to me." "Thank you." Xiao Chen's eyes also showed a dim smile as he nodded slowly. "So, this is the mystery behind why Jingyu jumped into the water of her own accord?" Yi Shue's belated words made Jingyu rub her forehead speechlessly. "Miss, isn't your reaction arc a little too slow?" Jingyu had woken up safely. Although there were many unsolved mysteries, it was good that she was fine. The most joyous thing was that Jingyu's eyes had inexplicably healed. Her abnormal pupils had also recovered. However, Chapter 1170. Why did I come here? In the Roman forest, Jingyu was carrying a few wild rabbits on her back. Her body was filled with a fishy smell, and the resentment on her face was so deep that it couldn't be any deeper. Shangguan Linglan yawned as he counted the arrows in his quiver. He said calmly, "You've been yelling the whole way. Can't you stop? You're too much of a bully." Jingyu lowered her head deeply and said, "Why can Xiao Chen and the others fight, but we have to fight for this nuisance of food? We have to give more food to the soldiers." Shangguan Linglan's eyes were filled with coldness as she looked at Jingyu and said, "If it wasn't for you, I would also be reduced to hunting wild animals." Jingyu looked at Shangguan Linglan's murderous eyes and said, "Isn't it good to bring you here to play?" "Really, what did you say?" Shangguan Linglan's murderous aura rose, causing Jingyu's body to tremble violently. She smiled as she leaned towards Shangguan Linglan and said, I say, you're especially beautiful today. Go to the side." Shangguan Linglan pushed Jingyu away rudely. A roar rang out, causing Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan to stop in their tracks. In the dense forest, a tiger with a colorful body jumped out, biting a dead rabbit in its mouth. "Ayaya, why did you get the rabbit covered in blood again? Didn't I tell you to be careful?" Jingyu walked up and took the rabbit from the tiger's mouth. She glared at the tiger and said, "Don't be so rude." After the tiger heard this, it let out a whimper, its heart filled with hidden bitterness. "Boss, I'm a tiger. I'm not human. If I don't kill the rabbit when I catch it, how can I bring it to you? Also, I have to hold it in. I can't swallow the rabbit. You don't know how hard it is for me to hold it in. Oh, okay, go play by yourself." Jingyu patted the tiger's head and continued walking forward. The tiger seemed to have been pardoned and disappeared with a whoosh. "Brother, you're not a tiger, you're a leopard, right?" You're quite fast. Speaking of which, Shangguan Linglong looked at this scene and said with a frown, "Why do I feel like your beast-taming skills are getting better and better?" "Ah, is that so?" Jing Yu's lips curled up slightly, but she didn't say much. After walking for a while, there would be some ferocious beasts delivering their prey to their door. Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglong were simply wandering around the forest to play. In just a morning's work, they were already full of prey. How boring! Jing Yu was resting on a rock. She was picking her teeth with a piece of wood. She had just finished a good meal, so of course she needed to rest. Sigh. Shangguan Linglong was lying next to Jing Yu and said bitterly, "It's all Fang Zicheng's fault. He said that we can't reveal it yet. It's killing me." Jing Yu nodded in agreement. She frowned and said, "I don't know what that sly old fox Fang Zicheng is planning, but it's a good thing that we can't reveal the fact that my pupils have recovered." Chapter 1171. Jing Yu slowly sat up as she spoke. Her golden-green eyes narrowed as she stared at the sunlight shining through the leaves. She spoke coldly, "If I could use this other pupil to catch the Holy Family and the poison sect off guard, that would be great." Hee. Shangguan Linglong stretched lazily as he spoke. "Just thinking about that scene makes me excited." "It's just..." Jing Yu looked up at the sky and sighed, "These days have been too hard to bear." Jing Yu's voice echoed through the forest, startling a flock of birds. Shangguan Linglong turned to Jing Yu and said, "Jing Yu, didn't you grow up in the Roman forest? What fun places are there in this forest?" "HM? Fun places?" Jing Yu tilted her head slightly at Shangguan Linglong's words. She blinked a few times before her eyes lit up as if she had thought of something. "Got it." Shangguan Linglong immediately jumped up and looked at Jing Yu with great interest. "Where?" "Waterfall Forest. There's a hot spring." Jing Yu jumped up excitedly and hurriedly stood up. "Now's the best time to soak in the hot spring. Let's go." Shangguan Linglong's eyes lit up when he heard Jing Yu's words. He followed Jing Yu into the depths of the forest. Shangguan Linglong couldn't help but admire Jing Yu immensely for being able to remember the way. They'd been walking for a long time, but they still hadn't heard the sound of running water. Shangguan Linglong had lost count of the number of times he'd asked this question. "How much longer until we get there?" Shangguan Linglong leaned against a tree trunk and took a sip from his water pouch as he asked. Jing Yu replied awkwardly. She turned around to look at the path and muttered, "I remember it's nearby. Why is the entrance gone?" "Jing Yu." Shangguan Linglong suddenly appeared behind Jing Yu. "We're here." Jing Yu's entire body trembled as she abruptly straightened her body. "You couldn't have remembered the way wrong, right?" Shangguan Linglong went completely crazy. He actually believed Jing Yu. "I swear to the heavens, I definitely didn't." Jing Yu swallowed and said, "I just forgot where the entrance is." Shangguan Linglong was speechless as she looked at the sky. She silently walked to the side of a tree and sat down. She deeply sighed. Just as she was about to rest, she suddenly saw a mountain rat quickly scurrying into the rocky forest. "How did you get in?" Shangguan Linglong curiously went forward and pushed. He thought it was a stone wall, but it turned out to be a cave filled with vines. "I found it." Jing Yu saw Shangguan Linglong's actions and ran over excitedly. She pushed aside the thick vines and said helplessly, "I haven't been here for so many years and the entrance has been blocked by the vines." "Linglong, come quickly." Jing Yu crawled in using both her hands and feet. People couldn't walk in this cave and could only crawl in while kneeling. Jing Yu was in front and Shangguan Linglong was behind her. After crawling in for a while, they stood up and could hear the sound of water clearly. "We're here." Jing Yu's voice rang in Shangguan Linglong's ears. However, Shangguan Linglong couldn't hear her clearly. In front of Shangguan Linglong and Jing Yu was a large waterfall. They could hear the roar of the waterfall crashing down. There were countless waterfalls of various sizes and it really lived up to its name of Waterfall Forest. Chapter 1172. It's so beautiful. Shangguan Linglan was completely stunned. He had never imagined that there would be such a beautiful scene hidden in the Roman forest. The sound of the waterfall couldn't be heard from outside the cave. It must have been isolated by the rocks. Shangguan Linglan took a deep breath. It seemed that the air here was very comfortable. I found this place when Yin Jian ran away from home to find him. As Jingyu spoke, she waved at Shangguan Linglan and climbed down from the vines. Yin Jian ran away from home at the slightest provocation. I worried about him a lot when he was young. Jingyu mumbled helplessly. Haha. Shangguan Linglan laughed when she heard this. It was as if she could imagine how Jingyu, Yin Jian, and Yin Feng, the two gray wolves, got along. Over here. Jingyu jumped onto a rock and waved at Shangguan Linglan. I used to come here often. I almost forgot about it after not coming for so long. Let's go to the hot spring. Jingyu led Shangguan Linglan to a clear pool. The water was steaming hot and flowed down from the mountain. On the other side of the waterfall, Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan took off their clothes and soaked in the pool. The steamy pool made Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan's hair wet. They squinted their eyes and looked like they were enjoying themselves. However, just as the two of them were enjoying themselves in the hot spring, they suddenly heard other sounds. Jingyu suddenly straightened her body, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. Someone's here. As Jingyu spoke, she suddenly got up from the water and pulled a piece of clothing to cover her body. Shangguan Linglan also hurriedly stood up. Shangguan Linglan didn't doubt Jingyu's hearing at all. Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan put on their clothes and walked out from behind a book. They were surprised to see two people on the rock. It seemed like they had just jumped down. Xiao Qin. You guys? Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan hugged their clothes and looked at Xiao Chen and Xing Er, who were both dressed in black, standing on the rock. They were stunned. How did the two of them find this place? However, when Jingyu saw the two wolves walking out from behind Xiao Chen and Xing Er, her face completely darkened. Damn. Since when did Yin Jian and Yin Feng treat Xiao Chen so well? Jingyu's eyes were filled with surprise. You guys are really here. Xiao Chen and Xing Er saw Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan's disheveled appearance and were very surprised. They frowned slightly and looked at the two people's exposed white thighs and exquisite collarbones. Xing Er. Xiao Chen frowned slightly and called out coldly. Xing Er responded and immediately went forward to grab Shangguan Linglan's body and carried him to the other side. Hey! Where are you taking me? Shangguan Linglan's eyes were filled with panic. He quickly raised his hands to grab Xing Er's neck and was directly carried by Xing Er through the waterfall and disappeared around the corner. Jingyu stood in a daze and looked at the two wolves, Yin Jian and Yin Feng, who howled and turned around to scamper up the mountain from the bushes. They then disappeared out of the cave. Only then did her eyes fall on Xiao Qin. Chapter 1174. The body pressed against Jingyu's, and incomparably ambiguous sounds rang out in the hot spring. There was also Jingyu's suppressed moans and Xiao Chen's panting. The two bodies were extremely entwined in this misty hot spring. This was a scene of spring. On the other side, after Xing Er took Shangguan Linglan away, he brought him to the other side of the waterfall before stopping. When Shangguan Linglan landed, his eyes were filled with anger. What are you doing? Shangguan Linglan glared at Xing Er and asked angrily. Nothing. Xing Er silently took a step back and put some distance between him and Shangguan Linglan. Probably because Xing Er walked in a hurry, he tore open Shangguan Linglan's clothes a little. The exquisite collarbone of Shanghai Linglan was very different from the Shangguan Linglan he saw in the past. Xing Er's eyes were burning. When he saw Shangguan Linglan's collarbone, his body stiffened and he suddenly turned his head away. Shangguan Linglan noticed the change in Xing Er. He looked down at his clothes and his face instantly turned red. He quickly turned his head away and tidied up his clothes with a red face. When he turned around and saw that Xing Er had also turned his back, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, the redness on his face did not fade at all. Why did you bring me here? Shangguan Linglan looked around and asked Xing Er in confusion. Master wants us to not disturb him. Xing Er's face was also faintly red as he said, "Master wants us to not disturb him." Did Xiao Chen say that? Shengguan Linglong was slightly taken aback when he heard this. He then asked in confusion. "No, but that's what Master wants." Second Xing replied resolutely. Shengguan Linglong looked at Second Xing's face that was tense from beginning to end. She was inexplicably unhappy when she heard him say, "Master," and "Master," again and again. "You two really have a deep relationship." Shengguan Linglong turned his head away coldly and said in a strange tone. Xing Er was silent. Shengguan Linglong glared at Xing Er and said unhappily, "What do you mean by not saying anything?" "Nothing." Xing Er replied again. "Do." Shengguan Linglong's face darkened. "This damned man. Either he doesn't speak or he speaks. It's infuriating. What are you still standing here for? Go away." Shengguan Linglong walked to the side angrily. Xing Er frowned when he heard this. He had no idea how he had angered Shengguan Linglong. He turned around silently and walked out. Shengguan Linglong saw that Xing Er really left just like that and was instantly enraged. "Xing Er, don't come back if you leave." Shengguan Linglong roared in exasperation. Xing Er suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Shengguan Linglong. "What are you looking at? Didn't I tell you to leave?" Shengguan Linglong saw that Xing Er had stopped in his tracks obediently and turned his head away arrogantly. He looked as if he didn't want to see him. Xing Er's face darkened completely. So, should he leave now? Or should he stay? Xing Er stood there silently for a while. Then, he slowly turned around and walked towards Shengguan Linglong. Shengguan Linglong looked at Xing Er who was walking towards him step by step and stepped back in fear. What was that dark and expressionless face doing? Chapter 1175. However, the moment Xing Er's hand touched the softness of Shengguan Linglong's chest, the seductive look in Shengguan Linglong's eyes disappeared completely. Her body trembled violently, and she raised her hand to push Xing Er away. She shouted angrily. Xing Er staggered. He looked at Shengguan Linglong's swollen lips and messy clothes. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. He hurriedly said, "I'm sorry." Then he turned around and rushed out. He plunged into the lake, allowing the icy waterfall to wash over his body. Ah! Shengguan Linglong watched as Xing Er jumped into the lake. Her heart skipped a beat. When she saw Xing Er's actions, she couldn't help but turn her head away. Then, she thought of what had just happened. Her expression changed abruptly, and she viciously cursed, "Serves you right." However, the shyness that rose in her heart did not dissipate no matter how hard she tried. Xing Er didn't know how long he had been in the water. When the sky turned dark, Jingyu and Xiaochen put on their half-dry clothes. When they walked to the side of the waterfall, they saw Xing Er's figure climbing out of the water. Jingyu was stunned when she saw Xing Er's drenched appearance. "Xing Er, why did you get into the water?" Jingyu blinked and asked Xing Er. When Xing Er heard Jingyu's question, his expression froze. He turned his head away in embarrassment and didn't say anything. Ahem. Shengguan Linglong walked towards Jingyu and Xiaochen. He didn't even look at Xing Er as he said calmly, "Let's go." Jingyu looked at Xing Er and Shengguan Linglong. Suddenly, she seemed to understand something. She lifted her hand and patted Xing Er's shoulder pitifully. "Our Linglong is good at everything, but she's too violent. It must have been Linglong who kicked you into the water, right?" Jingyu looked at second Xing with a serious expression as she spoke. "Jingyu." When Shengguan Linglong heard Jingyu's words, he suddenly turned his head and glared at Jingyu angrily. He looked like he wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. He could only glare fiercely at Jingyu before he quickly walked forward. Jingyu was slightly stunned. Did she say something wrong? "Let's go." When Xiaochen heard Jingyu's words, there was a smile in his eyes. He glanced at Xing Er from the corner of his eyes. He looked at the two of them, then looked at Xing Er's cowardly behavior and climbed out of the water. Xiaochen almost knew what had happened. He didn't expect Jingyu to say that. Xiaochen was amused. Jingyu, Xiaochen, and the others climbed up the vines and returned to the outside of the forest. They went all the way back to Jinling town. On the way back, they naturally brought back all the game they hunted. Ever since this incident, the relationship between Xing Er and Shangguan Linglong became very, very strange. From the looks of it, the two of them didn't seem to have changed. However, for some reason, Jing Yu felt that there was something strange between the two of them. As for what exactly was going on, Jing Yu couldn't put her finger on it. For this reason, Jing Yu studied the two of them for a long time. Xiao Chen, do you really not think that there's something wrong between Xing Er and Linglong? Could it be that they quarreled? Jing Yu grabbed Xiao Chen again and asked. I don't think so, Xiao Chen replied calmly. This made Jing Yu even more confused. Chapter 1176. Could it be that she was overthinking things? However, since it was a matter between Shangguan Linglong and Xing Er, she couldn't be bothered to get involved. She stayed in Jinling town for the past few days. The battle between Tokyo and Nanli continued, but it wasn't a big battle. Jing Yu couldn't go out and participate in the battle because her eyes had to be hidden. What is this? Jing Yu looked at the cloth Yi Shui brought over and asked curiously. Didn't you want to go to the battlefield? Yi Shui crossed her arms. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Jing Yu. Cover your eyes and continue to be blind. Then you can go to the battlefield. Jing Yu's face darkened. She glared at Yi Shui and said, Whose idea was this? Xiao Chen's, Yi Shui replied with a smile. Who wants to cover my eyes? Jing Yu angrily threw the cloth away and walked into the room. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to sleep. Yi Shui looked at Jing Yu's angry figure and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. He slightly raised his eyebrows and turned to leave. When night fell, Jing Yu had just finished showering. She was lying on the bed with a shirt on. She was flipping through a book in her hands. Her smooth legs swayed as she read. She seemed to be very interested in the book. Sigh, it's better to be able to see. Jing Yu sighed deeply in her heart. Just as she was engrossed in reading, someone suddenly grabbed her ankle. Jing Yu was startled and turned to look. You're not even wearing your clothes properly. Xiao Chen, who was dressed in black, stood behind Jing Yu. Looking at Jing Yu, he frowned with dissatisfaction. He stepped forward and sat down beside Jing Yu. He raised his hand to take the book from Jing Yu's hand and flipped through it. A storybook? Are you still a child? Xiao Chen lowered his head helplessly and glared at Jing Yu. Jing Yu blinked when she heard Xiao Chen's question. She then nodded seriously. Xiao Chen calmly put the book aside and looked at Jing Yu with narrowed eyes. His lips curled into an evil smile as he said, Is that so? Then I'll have to check it properly. Hey! Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen's outstretched hand and immediately hid under the bed in shock. She shouted, I'm not. Don't pull my clothes, Xiao Chen. You bastard. Jing Yu's exasperated voice rang out. However, she was powerless under Xiao Chen's attack. Ever since the incident at the hot spring, Jing Yu and Xiao Chen finally returned to normal. However, after that incident, Xiao Chen pestered Jing Yu even more. Every time, Jing Yu would beg for mercy. Xiao Chen unhappily let go of Jing Yu. Although Xiao Chen had been like this in the past, he had never been so torturous. On the bed, the candlelight flickered weakly. Jing Yu lay in Xiao Chen's arms with her eyes closed. Her forehead was covered in sweat and she was breathing slowly. Xiao Chen narrowed his pitch-black eyes. He moved his body and lifted his arms to embrace Jing Yu. Jing Yu's eyes were half opened. Her pair of golden-green eyes were even more dazzling in the dark night. Do you know how alluring you are right now? Xiao Chen's eyes darkened slightly. He looked at Jing Yu's exposed arms and the red marks on her smooth back. This scene had a huge impact on Xiao Chen. Chapter 1177. Xiao Chen. Jing Yu's brows furrowed as she looked slightly tired. When Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu calling his name, he lowered his eyes and lifted his hand to caress Jing Yu's face as he said, Go to sleep. Jing Yu heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Xiao Chen's words and closed her eyes again. Xiao Chen lifted his hand and pulled the blanket over Jing Yu's body. He turned to the side and hugged Jing Yu tightly as he slowly closed his eyes. Jing Yu slept very deeply in the middle of the night. Xiao Chen, who was originally sleeping soundly, slowly got up at this moment, put on his clothes, and walked out of the room. "Master!" A familiar voice sounded. Xiao Chen stopped in his tracks at the door and looked at the person who had come. "Xing Yi, is that you?" Xiao Chen's eyes flickered slightly as he looked at Xing Yi, who was standing at the side. He was already completely fine. It seemed that Qing Ji's methods were indeed effective. Xing Yi had recovered very well. "Yes, your subordinate." Xing Yi nodded in response. "Let's go." Xiao Chen was silent for a moment before he calmly turned around and walked into Qing Ji's room. The lights were still on in Qing Ji's room. "Ninth brother, you're here?" Qing Gu wasn't surprised to see Xiao Chen. After he welcomed Xiao Chen into the room, he didn't make a sound. "How much time is left?" Xing Yi, who was standing outside the door, didn't hear anything else after he heard those words. When Jing Yu woke up in the morning, it was already late in the morning. Xiao Chen, who was beside her, was long gone. Jing Yu blinked her eyes. She was already used to it. She yawned and put on her clothes before she walked out while rubbing her sore body. These days, Shengguan Linglan, Fang Zicheng, and the others were extremely busy. Only Jing Yu was especially free and had nothing to do. Jing Yu sat in the courtyard with her chin propped up as she thought about what to do. Originally, she wanted to drag Shengguan Linglan to the Roman forest. However, Shengguan Linglan left for the military camp early in the morning. This made Jing Yu very depressed, so she could only go alone. In the Roman forest, Jing Yu sat leisurely on Yin Jiao's back as they slowly walked into the depths of the forest. She looked at the various wild beasts in the forest with a bored expression. She walked aimlessly and didn't know where they were going. Jing Yu ran in the direction of the sound of flowing water when she heard it. It turned out to be a small waterfall. This waterfall was nothing compared to the one Jing Yu brought Shengguan Linglan to last time. Jing Yu wasn't interested in it. She walked over and took off the water bottle at her waist. Just as she bent down to fill it with water, she suddenly saw a black shadow appear in the air from the water's reflection. Jing Yu suddenly raised her head and slowly turned around. Her eyes were filled with horror as she looked at the huge eagle that was swooping down. It was heading straight for the two gray wolves, Yin Jian and Yin Feng. "Yin Feng! Run!" In a split second, Jing Yu's body trembled violently as she shouted, "Ao!" Yin Feng and Yin Jiao also felt the danger from the sky. The eagle bent down and extended its sharp claws, causing Jing Yu's eyes to turn cold. "Stop!" Jing Yu didn't hesitate to pick up a withered tree branch and used all her strength to swing it towards the giant eagle. The tree branch hit the giant eagle's body fiercely. The eagle's wings shook and it let out a cry as it fiercely flapped its wings and flew into the sky. Chapter 1178. Jing Yu panted slightly and looked up to see the giant eagle fly to the top of the waterfall and disappear over the mountain. "Silver Wind, are you all right?" Jing Yu hurriedly ran towards Yin Jian and Yin Feng. Seeing that the two gray wolves were safe and sound, she slowly let out a sigh of relief. She gently stroked Yin Feng's head and suddenly turned her head to look towards the top of the mountain. That damn thing. He didn't catch it last time, and this time, he dared to attack Silver Wind. He must be tired of living. "Let's go." Jing Yu's golden-green eyes flashed with coldness. She stood up and climbed onto Silver Wind's back and walked up the small path to the top of the mountain. If she didn't catch this guy and teach him a lesson today, she wouldn't be able to vent the hatred in her heart. Jing Yu led Silver Arrow and Silver Wind to the top of the mountain. She saw the small river, but didn't see any trace of the giant eagle. Jing Yu didn't give up and went down the mountain again. She climbed over 2 more mountains but still found nothing. Jing Yu finally returned to Jinling town when the sky turned dark. Because she had never seen such a huge eagle before, Jing Yu specially called Fang Zicheng over to investigate the origin of this giant eagle. "Know thyself and know thy enemy, and thou shalt be victorious in every battle." Jing Yu was now completely focused on this giant eagle. This In order to let Fang Zicheng see it clearly, Jingyu used her extraordinary drawing skills and drew a rough sketch of the giant eagle. She placed it in Fang Zicheng's hands. "How is it? Do you recognize it?" Jingyu blinked and asked Fang Zicheng. "So snowflake eagles really exist in this world?" Fang Zicheng's eyes were filled with surprise. He looked up at Jingyu and said, "There's a saying in the pugilistic world, chasing the sun and racing the wind colt, 1,000 miles of rouge snow." These two sayings refer to two types of mounts. Fang Zicheng slowly smiled and said, "Chasing the sun and racing the wind colt refers to a rare breed of colt that lives in the Cebu Plains. It can chase the sun and race the wind." And the last one, 1,000 miles of rouge snow, refers to the snowflake eagle. According to the records, snowflake eagles live on the top of mountains and have a wingspan of 15 feet. They are the largest eagle species in the world. However, snowflake eagles are fierce and will even eat people. That's why it got the fierce name of fierce eagle. Very few people would look for it. When Fang Zicheng finished speaking, Jingyu's eyes were filled with surprise. So this was the origin of the giant eagle. No wonder it was so ferocious. Fierce eagle, it really lives up to its name. Fang Zicheng. Fang Zicheng, Fang Zicheng. Catch. You want to catch one? Fang Zicheng waved his hand and said, "It's too dangerous." No. What are you afraid of? I'm not asking you to do it. Jingyu rolled her eyes. Jingyu, snowflakes aren't that simple. Fang Zicheng sighed helplessly and said, "Snowflakes aren't just individually strong. They live in groups and live on the top of mountains and cliffs. One is already so scary. Do you know what it means to have a group?" "A group?" Jingyu was completely shocked. She blinked and looked at Qinbai. Her eyes were full of surprise. Fang Zicheng nodded and said, "If you go just like that, I guarantee that you won't be enough for them. These snowflakes are as scary as vultures. They don't refuse meat. Do you still want to go?" Chapter 1179. Jingyu furrowed her brows and nodded solemnly, "Yes." "What? You still want to go?" Fang Zicheng's eyes widened in shock. "I have to go. I'll go prepare." Jingyu stood up abruptly and left without another word, completely ignoring Fang Zicheng's shouts. When Xiaochen received the news, he saw Jingyu cutting something in the courtyard. "Xiaochen, you're here?" Jingyu looked up at Xiaochen and smiled. "What are you doing?" Xiaochen looked at the thing in Jingyu's hand and asked curiously. "Look, I'm making something." Jingyu took a piece of paper from the side. On the white paper was something that Jingyu had drawn with charcoal. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes and furrowed his brows as he looked at it. "Why does it look so similar to Cebu's heavy ballista?" Xiaochen's eyes were filled with surprise as he looked at Jingyu. Jingyu nodded and sat down. "When I saw Cebu's ballista last time, it reminded me of something. I drew this based on the ballista. It's called a crossbow." "Crossbow?" Xiaochen narrowed his eyes. "Yes, it's the same as a bow, but it doesn't need to be pulled by humans. I'll show it to you when I'm done." Jingyu frowned and took the paper from Xiaochen's hand. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Jingyu naturally knew about the crossbow. It had existed in China's history, but it hadn't appeared in Xiaochen's era. Only Cebu's heavy ballista had appeared, and the principle behind it was the same. It was said that Cebu became the most famous country among the 4 countries for its military prowess. Most of the Cebu soldiers were proficient in using bows and arrows. Jingyu looked into it and found that it was because she had obtained a blueprint from Cebu. However, no matter how the other countries investigated, they couldn't find it. This was the lifeline of the Cebu. Cebu naturally hid the person who made the ballista very well. Every country was wary of the Cebu. Now, Jingyu had drawn the crossbow so casually and even said that she wanted to make it. How could Xiaochen not be surprised and curious? In order to understand what Jingyu wanted to do, Xiaochen stayed behind and watched Jingyu's process of making it. It wasn't complicated, and her technique was unfamiliar. Obviously, she didn't do it often. Jingyu tried making the crossbow several times, but it turned out to be a waste product. After all, Jing Yu only relied on her memory to make it. She didn't have any specific experiments. Jing Yu called Jin Hai to study the crossbow together. Jin Hai had always been very enthusiastic about making these things. He studied with Jing Yu for 2 to 3 days. The two of them didn't even have time to eat. They constantly improved, experimented, and made the crossbow. It had to be said that Jin Hai was really amazing. Perhaps practice made perfect? On the 3rd day, Jing Yu finally made the first crossbow in history. Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu put the arrow on the crossbow with his own eyes. It flew out and nailed accurately on a tree trunk in the distance. Ha! It's a success! Jing Yu's eyes were full of joy as she shouted loudly. Xiao Chen, Shangguan Hongwen, and the others stood at the side. When they saw this scene, their eyes lit up. They narrowed their eyes slightly and looked at each other. They saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Chapter 1180. Xiao Chen, do you see this? This is a crossbow. Jing Yu quickly walked to Xiao Chen's side and let Xiao Chen try it out. She arched her eyebrows and said, "Try it. This crossbow is lighter than a normal bow. It's very light whether you hold it in your hand or carry it on your back. But the strength and accuracy of its shots aren't inferior at all." Jing Yu taught Xiao Chen how to use it and let everyone try it out. "It's too amazing." Shangguan Hongwen's eyes lit up. He said in surprise, "The soldiers have to carry bows and arrows. It's too big and inconvenient. If we have this, it'll be too convenient." I remember in Jianghu, there was a chivalrous warrior who liked to use a sleeve arrow. The sleeve arrow was hidden in the sleeve. The power of the sleeve arrow was not bad, but the range was too short. This crossbow is simply perfect. Fang Zicheng held the crossbow in his hand and said with admiration, "Ninth Imperial Concubine, how did you know how to make it?" Fang Zicheng looked at it for a long time and finally asked the question that everyone wanted to ask. "Yes, Ninth Imperial Concubine, how did you know how to make it?" Everyone looked at Jing Yu in confusion. "Pa, can I steal your skills?" Jing Yu laughed and blinked her eyes. She took the crossbow and said, "Jin Hai, now that you know how to make it, you can make a batch and let the soldiers try it out." Jin Hai nodded solemnly. Although everyone was puzzled and didn't know how Jing Yu did it, they were more happy in their hearts. With this crossbow, the combat strength of the soldiers would be greatly improved once again. After Jing Yu packed everything, she couldn't wait to go to the Roman forest. Jing Yu didn't make this crossbow on a whim. If it wasn't for the fierce eagle, Jing Yu wouldn't have made it. Jing Yu. When Jing Yu was about to go out, she was blocked by Xiao Chen. Jing Yu was carrying a lot of things. Seeing Xiao Chen blocking her way, Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen in confusion. She didn't know what Xiao Chen meant. "Fang Zicheng said that you're going to catch the fierce eagle?" Xiao Chen's eyes were full of displeasure. Jing Yu's face darkened. Fang Zicheng's big mouth, didn't she tell him not to tell Xiao Chen? Why did he tell Xiao Chen that? Jing Yu swallowed her saliva silently. She was thinking of a way to fool him. "What do you plan to do?" Xiao Chen was silent for a moment, then stared at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu raised her head and looked at Xiao Chen's serious eyes. Jing Yu helplessly sighed and said, "I only have this plan now, but I don't know if I can do it." Xiao Chen continued to stare at Jing Yu. Obviously, he wanted Jing Yu to explain things clearly to him. "I want to tame the fierce eagle." Jing Yu was silent for a moment, then stared at Xiao Chen and said seriously. Xiao Chen's eyes widened slightly, and then he slowly lowered his gaze. That's just what I think." Jing Yu muttered to Xiao Chen and said, "Whether I can do it or not, I don't know. If I can't tame it, don't worry, I can definitely run away. I still have the ability to protect myself." Chapter 1181. Okay. Jing Yu originally thought that it would take some time to convince Xiao Chen, but she didn't expect that after Jing Yu finished speaking, Xiao Chen would actually calmly agree, causing Jing Yu's eyes to widen. You agree?" Jing Yu blinked at Xiao Chen and asked. "Yes, I agree." Xiao Chen raised his hand to pat Jing Yu's head and said, "But I want to go with you." Jing Yu's face darkened. She knew it. How could Xiaochen suddenly be so easy to talk to? Between the Roman forest, Jingyu and Xiaochen rode on Yin Jian and Yin Feng, quickly moving towards the depths of the forest. Fang Zicheng had said that fierce eagles like to live on top of mountains. Since it was a cliff, then, in this Roman forest, there was only one place that fit Fang Zicheng's description. That place was Jingyu's least favorite place because it was too gloomy. Jingyu rarely went there. Although Jingyu used to live in this forest, she didn't go to many places. Jingyu rode on Silver Arrow and Silver Wind towards the depths of the Roman forest. Finally, at noon, they arrived at the foot of a tall mountain. Xiaochen, look, it's there. Jingyu slowly raised her finger, and a huge mountain appeared on top of the tall mountain. However, this mountain looked like it had been split open by a knife, and there were several huge rocks piled up on top of the mountain, covered with vines. Jingyu and Xiaochen stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at the tall mountain peak, silently swallowing their saliva. This wasn't just a normal height, it was also quite dangerous between the gaps of these huge rocks. It gave people an inexplicable feeling, as if the rocks could fall down at any time, especially when they saw the cracks on the rocks. Jingyu was scared witless when she stepped on them. Rock climbing had always been Jingyu's specialty in the modern era, but it wasn't like this. Be careful. Xiaochen stepped on a piece of land and slightly tilted his head to say to Jingyu. Jingyu raised her hand to wipe the cold sweat on her forehead, paused, and nodded. Okay, let's continue. I climbed up to here before, but there were too many snakes and centipedes, so I didn't dare to go up. Jingyu grumbled bitterly. When she first discovered this place, Jingyu excitedly climbed up, but in the end she was scared back. Xiaochen's face darkened. He raised his hand to pull out the dagger at his waist and said, I'll lead the way. Jingyu was startled. Seeing Xiaochen climb up without saying anything, she blinked her eyes in surprise. Following behind Xiaochen, she inexplicably had a strong feeling of being protected, which made Jingyu feel very happy. Sure enough, as Jingyu said, on the way up, they could almost casually encounter all kinds of snakes. Jingyu almost thought that she had fallen into a snake's nest. What was even more terrifying were those disgusting centipedes and the like. Ugh. So annoying. Jingyu took Qingji's medicine and sprinkled it along the way. Jingyu and Xiaochen had already sprinkled the medicine on their bodies, so the insects wouldn't crawl on them. These things didn't like this kind of smell. Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's expression and smiled helplessly. We're almost there. Xiaochen casually threw down a snake in his hand, raised his head slightly, and looked at the top that was getting closer and closer. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Chapter 1182. Jingyu and Xiaochen stepped onto a rock and were about to climb up when they suddenly heard the sharp cry of an eagle. This figure was so loud that it reverberated in the air. Jingyu's eyes were filled with surprise as she looked up. High up in the sky, there was a huge eagle circling in the air. That mighty figure made Jingyu's eyes widen even more. What a big eagle! Jingyu said in surprise. Be careful! Xiaochen suddenly reached out and pulled Jingyu into the crevice of the rock to avoid the eagle's search. His dark eyes narrowed slightly. This eagle was really powerful. It's really scary. Jingyu slowly pursed her lips and said, Let's be careful. The nest of these eagles must be here. Xiaochen nodded his head and followed Jingyu. The two of them climbed up again and finally stepped onto the biggest rock. The moment they stood on the rock, Jingyu felt like she was in a trance. It really was incomparably high. Standing on this rock, they could easily see the entire Roman forest in the distance. Jingyu's eyes narrowed slightly, her eyes filled with surprise. So, the Roman forest was actually so big. Jingyu couldn't see it. They couldn't see the edge at all. There was a faint mist at the edge, and they couldn't see clearly at all. Xiaochen took Jingyu's hand. We're here. Xiaochen's heavy voice sounded in Jingyu's ear, pulling Jingyu's gaze back to reality. See. Jingyu turned around and looked. With one look, her eyes widened in horror. The nest of the eagles. Xiaochen's words slowly sounded in Jingyu's ear. Jingyu and Xiaochen were standing in the crevice of the rock. The eagles, big and small, were all standing there, their eyes moving around as if they were on guard against something. From time to time, they would see some eagles circling around the space outside the cliff, holding colorful snakes in their mouths. They would casually tear them apart and eat them. Such a spectacular scene really shocked Jingyu for a long time. Jingyu silently swallowed her saliva. She looked sideways at Xiao Chen and asked, "How about we go back?" Xiao Chen's face immediately darkened. "I'm afraid we can't go back," Xiao Chen said quietly. Before Jingyu could ask why, she suddenly saw a pitch-black figure rushing towards Jingyu and Xiao Chen. Jingyu and Xiao Chen were shocked and quickly moved aside to avoid the sharp claws. "Damn, these guys really don't know how to treat guests," Jingyu fiercely cursed. The commotion here completely attracted the attention of those big guys. In an instant, an alarm-like cry sounded from below the cliff. Jingyu cursed in her heart and quickly ran to the side of the path. Originally, Jingyu thought that this path would lead to some crevice in the mountain. She didn't expect that when she ran over, she would be stunned. Jingyu actually ran into the nest of one of the eagles. Moreover, there were a few eggs in the nest. When the eagle saw Jingyu appear, it immediately cried out angrily. The cry was so loud that it hurt Jingyu's ears. Chapter 1183. Oh my God! Jingyu turned around and ran. Obviously, the Humvees thought that Jingyu was a thief who came to steal the eggs. The Humvees were so angry that even their feathers stood up. Jingyu ran for her life, but the Humvees behind her didn't stop chasing. On this cliff, Jingyu could only run in these directions, or jump down. Jumping down was definitely not an option. Jingyu swallowed her saliva and ran in another direction. Her eyes flickered as if she had thought of something, and the look in her eyes suddenly deepened. "I don't care, I'll fight." Jingyu fiercely gritted her teeth and decisively rushed towards the group of Humvees. Xiao Chen saw Jingyu's actions and his pupils shrank. He seemed to have guessed what Jingyu wanted to do, and his brows deeply wrinkled. The Humvees here had completely entangled Xiao Chen, so Xiao Chen could only dodge everywhere. He couldn't do anything else. Jingyu rushed into the group of Humvees, and the Humvees were all startled. They fiercely screeched at Jingyu, as if they would pounce on her at any time. Jingyu's eyes slightly looked in one direction, and her eyes narrowed, as if she was judging the time. The Humvees let out a sharp cry, and one by one, they flapped their wings and surrounded Jingyu. Jingyu stepped back little by little towards the edge of the cliff. Xiao Chen saw Jingyu's actions from a distance, and his whole heart trembled. Jingyu's whole body tensed up. Seeing the Humvees approaching, they seemed to have grasped the right time, and all of them rushed towards Jingyu like a swarm of bees. Now is the time. Jingyu's eyes suddenly became cold, and the moment the Humvees rushed over, she suddenly jumped out. The moment Jingyu jumped out, a Humvee circling the edge of the cliff wanted to sneak attack Jingyu from behind, but it didn't expect that Jingyu would suddenly jump down, and her 2 feet firmly stepped on the Humvee's back. "Ah!" An incomparably sharp cry came from the Humvee's mouth. Jingyu's body was covered in cold sweat, and she quickly grabbed the Humvee's feathers to prevent herself from being thrown out. When had a Humvee's back been stepped on by a human? Jingyu looked at the vines that suddenly appeared, and fiercely turned the Humvee's head. Oh my God! Jingyu looked at the tens of thousands of meters in the sky, and her legs went soft. The Humvee was rolling, struggling and circling above the cliff, but it refused to accept Jingyu, and fiercely wanted to throw Jingyu off. Jingyu's hand fiercely slammed the Humvee into the cliff, and because of this, she was knocked dizzy. "Do you admit defeat?" Jingyu's golden-green eyes flashed with a different kind of light, and Jingyu fiercely pressed the Humvee down as she shouted, "Ah!" With another cry, the Humvee continued to fly, circling above the cliff. The Humvee behind it seemed to be chasing, but it didn't seem to care at all. Jingyu refused to let go no matter what. On the Humvee rushed into a forest full of thorns, and the thorns on her hands and face made Jingyu frown fiercely. Xiao Chen tied up the Humvee. Wiping the sweat on his forehead, he looked at Jingyu and the Humvee still circling in the sky, and suddenly frowned. Chapter 1184. Roar! A clear cry could be heard. Jingyu was probably really angry. She didn't care about anything else and fiercely slammed the fierce eagle into the rock. Fuck! Jingyu fiercely cursed. You really think I can't do anything to you? Since you like slamming so much, I'll let you have your fun. Jingyu fiercely pulled on the fierce eagle's feathers, as if she was flinging clothes. Again and again, she slammed the fierce eagle into the rocks, almost causing it to lose all of its bearings. Then Jingyu fiercely flung the fierce eagle, causing it to fall to the ground, moaning powerlessly. Are you convinced? If you're not convinced, let's do it again. Jingyu sat on the fierce eagle's body and revealed a very amiable smile. She smiled at the fierce eagle and said something. The fierce eagle weakly cried out and decisively laid on the ground, motionless. Ah, that's a good boy. Jingyu looked at the completely motionless fierce eagle and very happily reached out to touch its head. She smiled and slowly got down from the fierce eagle. Only then did the fierce eagle stand up. This fierce eagle is really not a normal big one. It's at least 2 meters tall. It's already this tall when it's standing, and when it spread its wings in the air just now, it's incomparably majestic. Jingyu's golden-green eyes slightly flickered. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the fierce eagle's orange eyes. Hearing the fierce eagle's cry, it lowered its head and rubbed Jingyu's head, looking like it was bullied and wanted to be comforted. I told you to behave, you didn't listen. Did it hurt? Jingyu raised her hand and touched the fierce eagle's head. Just as she was about to speak, she heard Xiao Chen's call from the top of the mountain. Jingyu looked up. Come, let's go up. Hearing this, Jingyu raised her hand and grabbed the fierce eagle's back. This time, there was no obstruction at all. She easily flew to the top of the mountain and slowly landed among the group of fierce eagles. Jingyu. After seeing Jingyu come down, Xiao Chen hurriedly greeted her. Seeing that Jingyu was not injured, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. How could you be so reckless? Xiao Chen thought of the scene just now and frowned in displeasure. He stared at Jingyu and said, I'm fine. Jingyu pulled Xiao Chen's hand and turned to look at the fierce eagles and said, Fierce eagles now, these fierce eagles are no harm. Huh. Hearing this, Xiao Chen was slightly startled. He turned his head and looked at the fierce eagles. Only then did he realize that the fierce eagles that had been screaming so loudly were now sitting on the ground peacefully. They were no longer hostile to Jingyu and Xiao Chen. Seeing this scene, Xiao Chen's eyes flashed slightly. He turned his head and looked at Jingyu's golden-green eyes. He seemed to understand a little. Xiao Chen, come up. Jingyu found a fierce eagle that looked very strong. After flipping over and mounting it, she reached out her hand to Xiao Chen. Seeing Jingyu's outstretched hand, Xiao Chen's eyes revealed a faint smile. He reached out his hand and held Jingyu's hand. Together, they sat on the fierce eagle. Chirp, chirp. A loud and clear cry echoed in the valley. With this cry, the fierce eagles in the mountain valley all flew up as if they had received some kind of order. One by one, they flew high into the sky and into the clouds, circling and crying. This scene was spectacular. Behind them, countless fierce eagles circled and danced, as if they were protecting Jingyu and Xiao Chen. The figures flying in the sky, the sound of the wind in their ears was so loud. Chapter 1185. Jingyu rode the Humvee down from the sky, passing through the cracks in the rocks, sweeping through the bushes, and flying among the trees in the forest. Behind her, Xiao Chen held Jingyu's waist with a faint smile on his face. Wow, I can fly! At this moment, Jingyu couldn't control her excitement. This is too amazing! Xiao Chen's face, which rarely showed any expression, was dyed with pleasant surprise. The faint blush on his face showed that he was very excited. Jingyu never thought that one day, she would be able to fly in the blue sky. Below her feet, she could see the endless mountains and trees of the Roman forest. When the wind blew, it was like a green ocean, rippling with layer after layer of waves. Ha! Roar! Jingyu played in the sky above the Roman forest to her heart's content. Finally, as the sun gradually set, she landed on an open space near Jinling town. The setting sun stretched the shadows of Jingyu, Xiaoqin, and the Humvee very long. Jingyu watched the Humvee fly into the sky, as if it was saying goodbye to Jingyu. It let out a clear cry before disappearing. That was too satisfying. Jingyu's eyes curved, the excitement in her eyes didn't fade. Xiaoqin held Jingyu's hand and looked at the crossbow on Jingyu's back. He said, "You originally planned to kill the Humvee if you couldn't tame it?" Jingyu nodded and took the crossbow off her back. She said, "Fortunately I held back. But when I was riding the Humvee, it made me think of something else." "Do you want to train the Humvee as mounts for the soldiers?" Jingyu didn't need to say anything, as Xiaoqin had already said it. When Jingyu heard Xiaoqin's words, her eyes widened in surprise. She pursed her lips and said, "You thought of it too?" Xiaoqin nodded and said, "I didn't think of it before, but when I was riding the Humvee and saw the scenery below, I thought of it. If we had a Humvee team, it would be a historic reversal." "Yes, I thought of it too." Jingyu's eyes flashed with light. She looked at Xiaoqin and said, "When we go back, we'll discuss it with everyone. If we really want to form an army with the Humvee, we'll definitely need a Humvee saddle." Xiaoqin also nodded. But Xiaoqin frowned at Jingyu and said, "Taming the Humvee won't do you any harm, right? Is there anything wrong?" "I'm fine." Jingyu was very confused. She blinked and said, "I don't feel anything at all. I just feel that it's very simple. I thought that the Humvee would be very fierce, but it seems like it's easier than taming a Lion King. I remember that when I tamed a Lion King and a Tiger King, I felt very tired. Now, I don't feel anything at all." Jingyu raised her hand and touched her eyes. She said with some confusion, "It's really strange." "That's a good thing." Xiaoqin looked at Jingyu's eyes. He pursed his lips and said, "But we still need to pay attention to something. Ask Fang Zicheng to investigate the Holy Family and see what's going on with your strange eyes." Jingyu lowered her eyes and replied. When the two of them returned to Jinling, the sky was already completely dark. In the following period of time, Jingyu and Jinhai were working on the frame on the Humvee. It could be tied to the body of the Humvee so that the person sitting on it could have a place to stand. Chapter 1186. The crossbows that Jingyu had been researching were also being developed in large batches. From an outsider's perspective, Jinling town seemed to be going on as usual, but they didn't know that a huge change was happening in one of the towns. As time passed, more and more crossbows were produced. What Jingyu wanted to do was to train the eagle riders, and the weapons they would use were crossbows. With such coordination, they would definitely be able to achieve perfect results. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In the Roman forest, the originally quiet forest suddenly soared into the sky with a fierce eagle, causing people to tremble in fear. Looking at the people sitting on the fierce eagle, their eyes were filled with ferocity. By now, they could already control the fierce eagle skillfully, avoiding all the rocks and controlling the speed of the flight. Thinking back to how careful and fearful they had been a month ago, they felt a little amused. And this month's growth was all thanks to Jingyu. The fierce eagle stopped at the highest cliff in the Roman forest. "Very good, you can all graduate now. From today onwards, the eagle riders are officially established." Jingyu stood beside the fierce eagle, her golden-green eyes sparkling under the sunlight. When Jingyu finished speaking, everyone cheered excitedly. "You all go back first, I still have things to do." After leaving these words, Jingyu mounted the fierce eagle and flew in another direction. The soldiers behind her saw Jingyu's figure and blinked slightly, but they couldn't disobey Jingyu's orders. They all mounted their fierce eagles and flew in the direction of Jinling town. High up in the sky, Jingyu narrowed her eyes slightly. Before Jingyu set out today, Fang Zicheng had given Jingyu a secret mission. The mission was to investigate where the Cebu's troops were stationed. Fang Zicheng had always believed that the Cebu's existence was a ticking time bomb. Jingyu was also very conflicted about this. The Cebu had been standing at the side and watching without any movements. After so long, it was time to investigate the Cebu's situation. "Be careful." Jingyu raised her hand and patted the fierce eagle's neck. Although the fierce eagle was in the air, it was too big. If they got too close, it would be difficult to guarantee that they wouldn't be noticed, so it was better to be careful. Jingyu slowly approached the Cebu's main camp, lowering her body bit by bit in the air so that Jingyu could see the Cebu's defensive layout clearly. The Cebu's troops were peacefully stationed on the plains, completely unaware that there was a pair of eyes watching them from above. Jing uses hers. This the crown's crowns. As for the other person, he was wearing a white robe, which was very wide and covered his body. The robe was connected with a hat, which covered his head and hair, revealing a very handsome face. He seemed to be talking to Wei Ling. Jingyu frowned slightly. This man was obviously not from Cebu. He was dressed like a person from the pugilistic world. Who was this person? How could he make Wei Ling act so friendly? Could he be a helper that Wei Ling had invited? Chapter 1187. Jingyu wanted to take a closer look, but she was afraid that she would be discovered. She thought about Fang Zicheng's instructions when he gave her the task today and sighed deeply. She wanted to put this matter aside and memorize the terrain of this defensive formation. As for this man, she would think about it later. Jingyu silently pursed her lips. After memorizing it, she rose into the air and left. At this moment, in the Cebu's camp, Wei Ling and the man in white were talking. "Thank you, Crown Prince, for your help this time." The man in white had a handsome face. He looked at Wei Ling with a pair of clear black eyes as he spoke. His action of saluting was the action of a Jianghu hero. He did not seem like someone from the palace at all. "Sir Bai is too polite." Wei Ling waved his hand nonchalantly and said, "But Sir Bai, do you really not plan on staying here for a few more days?" "No need." The man in white lowered his head and said helplessly, "If I stay here, I will bring a lot of trouble to the Crown Prince. Once my injuries are healed, I will leave on my own." When Wei Ling heard the man's words, he frowned slightly. He looked at the man in white and said worriedly, "External injuries are easy to heal, but internal injuries are difficult to heal." "Sir Bai?" Wei Ling paused again. "I can only take one step at a time." When the man in white heard Wei Ling's words, his hands that were hanging by his side clenched slightly. He seemed to be unable to endure it. His lips were slightly pale and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. "Let's just live a few more years." The man in white slowly closed his eyes and said as if he was sighing. Wei Ling looked at the man in white and did not say anything. The man turned his head and looked in a direction. His pitch-black eyes were filled with longing and deep thoughts. That kind of longing was very clear. But there was also a strong sense of sadness and unwillingness in this longing. No one could understand the expression in his eyes or the meaning of his words. Jingyu hovered above the Cebu garrison for 3 consecutive days before she finally memorized the defensive layout. Fang Zicheng was very satisfied and went back to study it. However, after studying it for several days, he still didn't give any orders. Jingyu once again fell into a state of idleness. Tokyo and Nanli were still engaged in a tug-of-war with Jinling. The situation seemed to have inexplicably fallen into a deadlock, and there was no progress in any other direction. However, this originally stable situation was completely disrupted because of one incident. On this day, Jingyu and Yi Shui went to the forest to practice their beast-taming abilities. Yi Shui used her voice to tame beasts, while Jingyu used her eyes to tame them. Jingyu always felt that there was a connection between her and Yi Shui, but she didn't know where it was. Today, Jingyu specially called Yi Shui out, saying that she wanted to study what was going on. Yi Shui saw that Jingyu was so interested and followed her. "Try to control this rabbit in front of you." Jingyu caught a wild rabbit and let Yi Shui try to control it. Yi Shui took out the jade flute at her waist and blew it slowly. The sound of the flute echoed in the forest. Jingyu blinked when she saw the rabbit stand up. "It's really mysterious. How do you control it?" Jingyu squatted down curiously and watched the rabbit turn in circles and sway left and right. She blinked curiously. Chapter 1188. The sound of the flute continued. Jing Yu squatted on the ground and looked at the rabbit. She didn't know why, but when she heard Yi Shue's flute, Jing Yu suddenly fell into a trance and sat on the ground. Yi Shue saw that Jing Yu had suddenly sat on the ground and stopped playing the flute. He asked in confusion, "Jing Yu, what's wrong?" "It's nothing." Jing Yu trembled and shook her head. She raised her hand and rubbed her temples. Was she distracted just now? Or did something happen? Why did Jing Yu feel like she couldn't control herself at that moment? "I was distracted for a moment." Jing Yu patted her clothes and stood up. Just as Jing Yu and Yi Shue were in the middle of their experiment, Jing Yu's sharp ears heard a sound coming from the forest. Jing Yu immediately became alert. "There's movement." Jing Yu gestured for Yi Shue to keep quiet. The two of them walked quickly into the forest. As soon as they stepped into the forest, they heard the sound of weapons clashing. Jing Yu's eyes flashed with a cold light. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the people who were fighting. In the forest, a group of black-clothed people were slashing their swords and sabers at two people. One of them was dressed in white and his body was covered in wounds. The bright red blood dyed his clothes red. The moment Jing Yu saw this person, she was stunned. No wonder this back view was so familiar. Wasn't this the man who was standing beside Wei Ling a while ago? But why was this person here? Jing Yu's mind was filled with confusion. Just as she was about to hide and watch, she suddenly saw Yi Shue standing up excitedly. Jing Yu was so shocked that she quickly reached out to pull Yi Shue back. Now was not the time to show off. Bai Jiao. However, just as Jing Yu reached out to pull Yi Shue back, she heard Yi Shue call out that name in shock as she stared at the man in white. "What? Bai Jiao?" Jing Yu widened her eyes and looked at the man in white. She didn't expect this person to be the Bai Jiao that Yi Shue had been searching for. While Jing Yu was still in shock, Yi Shue rushed forward recklessly. Just as Yi Shue rushed forward, Bai Jiao suddenly turned and ran. Yi Shue chased after her without a care. Poor Jing Yu was left behind to deal with the men in black. Jing Yu wanted to chase after them, but she was held back by the men in black. Damn it! Jing Yu's face darkened. Her golden-green eyes glowed brightly, and the roars of wolves and tigers resounded in the forest. These men had seen Jing Yu's eyes. In order to prevent the news from leaking, Jing Yu couldn't be left alive. By the time Jing Yu finished dealing with the men in black, Yi Shue and Bai Jiao had already disappeared. Jing Yu sighed helplessly. This man valued his lover more than his friends. Jing Yu chased after them, but she couldn't see where they went. Just as Jing Yu was about to turn to another path to investigate, she unexpectedly heard the sound of breathing in the grass. Jing Yu stopped in her tracks. She clenched her dagger and walked towards the grass. When she lifted the grass and saw Wei Ling leaning against a rock, she was completely stunned. Wei Ling was unconscious and his body was covered in wounds. His eyes were tightly shut, and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. His black clothes were dirty. Chapter 1189. Jing Yu couldn't understand it all. Why would the crown prince, who was protected at the Cebu, appear here in such a state? Could it be that the Cebu was attacked? That couldn't be right. If the Cebu was attacked, Jing Yu couldn't be unaware of it. Jing Yu looked normal at the Cebu a while ago. Jing Yu frowned when she saw this. Should she save him now? Or should she save him? By the river, she used a handkerchief to wet her hand and fed it to Wei Ling bit by bit. She also cut off Wei Ling's robe and bandaged Wei Ling's wound. The people on TV who tore off their own clothes were too naive. My clothes are so precious, how can they be torn off so casually? Hence, Jing Yu decisively cut off Wei Ling's robe and bandaged his wound. It was good enough that she saved him. How could Jing Yu treat him so well? Jing Yu curled her lips in disdain. One had to know that they were enemies now. If not for the fact that Wei Ling hadn't made a move in this battle and had been observing from the sidelines, and if Wei Ling had hurt anyone that Jing Yu cared about, Jing Yu would have mercilessly stabbed him in the heart when she saw Wei Ling today. The sky gradually darkened. Jing Yu summoned Silver Wind to guard Wei Ling while Jing Yu rode Silver Arrow to continue searching for Yi Shue and Bai Jiao in the forest. However, she didn't find anything. Jing Yu had no choice but to return to Wei Ling's side. The The sky was already dark, and it was too late to return to Jinling. Furthermore, she had to drag along a heavily injured Wei Ling. She had no choice but to sleep in the forest. When the bonfire was lit, Jingyu hoped that Yi Shui would come looking for her if she saw the bonfire. However, Jingyu was obviously overthinking. That damned woman, what the hell is she doing? Jingyu said unhappily as she poked at the bonfire. But just as Jingyu was feeling indignant, she finally heard the unconscious Wei Ling call out, "Water, water, oh you're awake." Jingyu took a large leaf from the side and poured some water on it. She lifted Wei Ling's head and fed the water to Wei Ling. Finally, she saw Wei Ling's tightly shut eyes slowly open. Those pitch-black eyes were still a little dazed. His face was smeared with dirt and blood. Wei Ling's face was undoubtedly handsome. However, ever since Jingyu had Xiaoqin, she inexplicably felt that no one was as handsome as Xiaoqin. For example, in Jingyu's eyes, Wei Ling wasn't good-looking at all. She only felt that he was more pleasing to the eye than the average person. "Crown Prince? You're awake?" Jingyu smiled as she looked at Wei Ling. "Jingyu?" Wei Ling's voice carried a hint of surprise. He frowned slightly as he looked at Jingyu. "Yes, it seems like your head is still intact. It's not damaged and you can still recognize me." When Jingyu heard Wei Ling calling out to her, she nodded calmly. She raised her hand to touch Wei Ling's head. He didn't show any signs of a fever. How fortunate. Wei Ling looked at Jingyu in shock. "What about me?" Jingyu rolled her eyes. She stood up and walked towards the bonfire. She said calmly, "I'm your savior. Since you're awake, eat something. Your injuries are probably fine." Chapter 1190. But I don't know if you have any internal injuries. As Jingyu spoke, she passed the roasted rabbit meat over to Wei Ling. Only then did she realize that Wei Ling was still lying down. She frowned and had no choice but to help Wei Ling sit up first. Only then did she pass the rabbit meat over and ask, "Can you hold it with your hands?" Wei Ling responded and reached out to take the rabbit meat from Jingyu's hands. He was filled with questions as he watched Jingyu eat the rabbit meat without a care in the world. She didn't seem to have any intention of explaining. "Hey, you've been staring at me for a long time. Hurry up and say what you want to say." Jingyu frowned and added more firewood into the fire. "Why did you save me?" After a moment of silence, Wei Ling asked the question that he wanted to ask the most. "I saw it. I wanted to save you, so I saved you." Jingyu responded calmly. She tilted her head to look at Wei Ling and said, "You should be glad that I happened to be in the Roman forest today. Otherwise, with your blood-stained appearance, you would easily attract wolves." Wei Ling fell silent when he heard this. He silently lowered his head and didn't say anything. "Are you done asking?" Jingyu blinked and looked at Wei Ling. She coughed lightly and said, "Since you're done asking, then it's my turn to ask. Why you here? Who's after you? And who is that white-clothed man with you?" Jingyu asked a series of questions. She completely ignored Wei Ling's expression and stared at Wei Ling like a curious baby. Wei Ling tilted his head and said, "His name is White Nine. He's a pugilist that I accidentally saved." Wei Ling obviously didn't want to answer Jingyu's first question. He only answered Jingyu's last question. Jingyu wasn't the least bit surprised when she heard Wei Ling's answer. She was just asking casually and didn't expect to get an answer from Wei Ling, so it really is White Nine. Jingyu sighed and lowered her head. She stood up and sat down on the other side. She reached out and fiddled with the fire with a branch. "You know White Nine?" When Wei Ling heard Jingyu's words, he shifted his body and wanted to sit more comfortably. But he didn't expect that he pulled his wound. "I don't know." Jingyu thought for a moment. It seemed like Jingyu only knew White Nine. She didn't officially know White Nine, so she gave such an answer. Wei Ling didn't get to the bottom of it. Instead, he closed his eyes and seemed to be a little tired. "Rest well. I'll be here tonight. Nothing will happen." Jingyu stretched lazily. She raised her hand and added a few more sticks of firewood. Then, she turned around and sat down by a tree trunk to rest. Speaking of which, I heard some news that the 9th Imperial Concubine's eyes seem to be blind, right? Wei Ling looked at Jing Yu's actions. He looked at Jing Yu's golden-green eyes and slowly narrowed his eyes. The coldness in his eyes carried a strong sense of scrutiny. I thought you wouldn't ask. In the end, you couldn't help it. Jing Yu's lips curled into a faint smile. She looked at Wei Ling with a smile and said, "It's just like what you see. My eyes." Jing Yu raised her hand and pointed at her eyes. She looked at Wei Ling with a smile and didn't care about Wei Ling's reaction. She yawned and said, "What a headache." Chapter 1191. This is a secret that can't be revealed. Now that you know, should I kill you to silence you? Jing Yu's golden-green eyes flickered as she spoke. The light was especially dazzling in the dark night. She glanced at Wei Ling with a murderous look in her eyes. Wei Ling's heart suddenly shrank. His pitch-black eyes slowly darkened. "Ha, you're scared." Jing Yu laughed out loud when she saw Wei Ling's expression change. The smile in her eyes made one's heart tremble. Wei Ling frowned deeply. "Since I saved you, I naturally can't be bothered to kill you." Jing Yu turned her head away and closed her eyes slowly. She looked like she was going to rest. Jing Yu did this series of actions very naturally. Whether it was from the beginning of the conversation or the interaction between the two of them, each of them was guarded and probing. After all, they were enemies. But now, Jing Yu's behavior gave Wei Ling a very strange feeling. He never knew that people could interact like this. No matter what purpose Jing Yu had for saving him. When Wei Ling woke up in the morning, Jing Yu was nowhere to be seen. He only saw a gray wolf lying lazily on the ground and licking its paws. When it heard Wei Ling get up, it glanced at him indifferently and turned its head back. Wei Ling finally understood. Was the gray wolf protecting him? He didn't need to think to know that other than Jing Yu, who else could do this? "You're awake." A light voice sounded. Jing Yu appeared in front of Wei Ling on the gray wolf with a cloth bag in her hand. Under Wei Ling's strange gaze, Jing Yu poured out many fruits from the cloth bag. "They're all clean. Eat them." As Jing Yu spoke, she reached out to eat the fruit and untied a basket from the gray wolf's body. "I've got some herbs. Wait a moment, I'll apply them on your wounds." Jing Yu said as she quickly ate the fruit. Then, she took the bamboo jar and stirred the herbs. She walked towards Wei Ling. "It's a little painful. Bear with it," Jing Yu said quietly as she unbuttoned Wei Ling's clothes and was about to apply the medicine. "I can bear with this pain." Wei Ling was amused by Jing Yu's words. It was the first time he heard someone speak to him like this. She was so careful when she applied the medicine. "Ha, I'm afraid I'll cry out when I'm applying the medicine. That's embarrassing." Jing Yu rolled her eyes. Although Jing Yu's tone was harsh, Jing Yu was very gentle when she applied the medicine. Seeing Jing Yu carefully applying the medicine, Wei Ling's eyes changed. "Done." Jing Yu straightened up and rebandaged the wound. Only then did she wipe the sweat off her forehead. She heaved a sigh of relief and said, "The external injuries are fine. Don't tell me you still have internal injuries?" As Wei Ling spoke, his gaze landed on his robes. No wonder he felt that the cloth used to bandage his wound was very familiar. It turned out that, ahem. Jing Yu turned her head and met Jing Yu's gaze. She calmly looked away and said, "Well, I don't have anything to bandage my wounds with, so I can only use your clothes." Chapter 1192. Wei Ling's face darkened as he lowered his head in silence. "Let's go, I'll send you back to the Cebu camp," Jing Yu said as she walked towards Wei Ling and helped Wei Ling up. No. Who would have thought that Wei Ling would reject her and said firmly, "We can't go back yet." Jing Yu was stunned. She thought for a moment and looked at Wei Ling with a conflicted expression. "You weren't kicked out, right? Did you lose your position as the crown prince? Or were you assassinated?" Jing Yu was completely spouting nonsense because this was simply the most common drama between princes. After Jing Yu said this, Wei Ling's face instantly turned gloomy. Clearly, Jing Yu had hit the nail on the head. Fuck. She was right. Jing Yu's mouth twitched. She looked at Wei Ling and asked, "How many princes are there in the Cebu? I almost forgot that the Cebu has more than one crown prince. Who else could it be other than my brother?" Wei Ling's eyes were filled with mockery. He lowered his eyes and curled his lips into a disdainful smile. TSK, the drama between the royal family is really scary. Jing Yu didn't ask any more questions. She raised her hand and placed Wei Ling's hand on her shoulder. She frowned and said, "Since you're not going back to the Cebu, where are you going?" "I don't know." Wei Ling's answer was quick this time. "I suddenly regret saving you." Jing Yu's face darkened. Wei Ling was the crown prince of the Cebu and was an enemy. She couldn't bring him back to Jinling, but where else could she go? Jing Yu temporarily brought Wei Ling to a secluded cave and settled down. Then, she began to think about her next move. In this forest, Jing Yu could survive unscathed, but it didn't mean that Wei Ling could do the same. Therefore, in order to be cautious, Jing Yu couldn't leave at all. She inexplicably felt that saving a person was like saving a bunch of trouble. Speaking of which, Jing Yu could completely ignore Wei Ling and pretend that she didn't save him at all. However, Jing Yu couldn't do it. "Yin Feng, go and inform Xiaochen. Don't let Xiaochen worry about me." Jing Yu thought about it and decided that she should inform Xiaochen that she was safe. If this guy went crazy again and dug up the entire Roman forest, it would be fun. Yin Feng rubbed its head against Jing Yu's hand and flew out of the cave. Wei Ling's eyes flickered when he saw this scene and heard Jing Yu's words. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. His pitch-black eyes seemed to be brewing something. Not long after Yin Feng left, Jing Yu suddenly heard a strange sound in the forest. Jing Yu stood up abruptly. Her ears twitched and the dagger in her hand appeared. "Someone's coming." Jing Yu turned around and said to Wei Ling, "Hide here and don't make a sound. I'll go and lure them away." Jing Yu didn't care if Wei Ling objected. She waved her hand at Yin Jian and jumped onto his back. She covered the cave entrance and drove Yin Jian in another direction. "Over here." Jing Yu deliberately made some noise after she ran for a distance. Sure enough, she heard shouts and chased after Jing Yu. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.